All right. So let's wait a couple of minutes, see if somebody else joins. And if not, we're just gonna go ahead and start.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So today we will continue working on the speaking section. And in fact, today we're making up for we didn't have on Tuesday, right? Which was not the Tuesday, Thursday. So we're making up for the class we didn't have on Thursday due to the holiday we had here in Bolivia. So what we're gonna do today is continue practicing the speaking task number 1, the first question of the speaking section. And tomorrow we'll start with a new question, right? We'll move to task number 2. But for today, let's continue practicing task 1. Remember that in this question, you just have the question there on your screens. You get 15 seconds to prepare after you hear the question, and then you get 45 seconds to speak and answer the question, right? So let's see what we got. Let's start answering the questions. All right. We have the timer. Okay, guys, so this will be the first question we work on. The question says, only digital textbooks should be available for university students. Do you agree or disagree with the statement? Make sure that you give specific reasons plus supporting details in your argument. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so maybe we could start with you, Nicolas. Do you want to try first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I disagree with the statement because the school students need um, well they need to have they don't need to have a lot of books because that hurts our back and makes us buy and yeah, I think that I don't know I don't know uh, I don't know what else to say. Yeah.
Okay, you're right, good. When you don't know what else to say, don't ever say that you don't know what to say. Okay? Remember that everything that you say
Okay.
during
Okay.
recorded and will count for your score. So
Okay.
in this case, it was good you said that you disagree with this statement, although I think that you meant that you agree, right? Because you said that we don't have to carry a lot of books, or students don't have to carry a lot of books. But I think that's in favor of not using physical textbooks, right? But instead only using digital textbooks. So maybe what you meant is that you actually agree with this, that students should only use digital textbooks, right? So careful with that, careful with your opinion. And if you're gonna say disagree, agree, try to say what, with what, right? I disagree that students should use physical textbooks, or I agree that only digital textbooks should be available for students. Right? Try to tell me what you agree with. And I think that's it. You know, the only thing that you were missing is an example. Don't forget to give an example. Your reason was good, right? You said that these are not convenient to carry because maybe they hurt us our backs. So it's fine, but try to give examples, right? Try to be a little bit more specific. Maybe you can talk about your university or your experience when you were in university, the policies they had, or how many textbooks you used to use, maybe a specific class that didn't ask you for physical textbooks. I don't know, I try to give some details. Okay. Okay. Now the next question here says, students should have tuition increases in order to maintain the library research facilities. Do you agree or disagree with the statement? Make sure that you give specific reasons plus supporting details in your argument. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so maybe Benzi,
Okay,
you can start now.
I agree that students should have tuition increase in order to maintain the library research facilities because I think that is important has updating information. For example, yesterday when I was looking for psychology papers, but I have to fund recently research. So I think that it is important university has update information about this environment. So I don't know.
Okay, good. Nice. So it was actually good, and I know what you meant. You know, you said that you agree that the tuition should be increased in order to maintain the library. And you had a good reason as well, right? You said that libraries need to be updated or need to have updated information, maybe new books, I don't know, access to the internet. So it was really good. The only thing I'd say is just make sure that you always try to connect your ideas, even if it is kind of obvious that you meant that you were talking about libraries, right? But in your example, for instance, you only said, yesterday I was looking for some psychology papers and I couldn't find updated information. But you didn't mention that you were looking for this information in your university library, right? So make sure that you always say it, even if I know it's clear, but just make sure that you say it. So yesterday I was looking for some psychology papers to do an assignment in my university library. However, I couldn't find any updated material, right? So only that will be the only thing. Make sure that the ideas are always clearly and explicitly connected. And one thing for grammar, careful with the structure you have. When you say that something is important or that it's important to do something, remember it is important to have, right? Instead of it is important has. It is important to have updated information. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Andrea.
All right, let's do another one. So this one here says, explain whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. Children should not be allowed to play video games. Then give specific details in your article. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Alexandra, please. You may
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay. Totally agree with this statement because I think the video games doesn't no, it could be a bad example for the children. For example, about their behavior. There are some video games that are too aggressive. So I think they don't have to play video games. In depend of their age also.
Okay, good. All right. So it was good. You know, you said that you agree with this statement that children should not be allowed to play video games. I would say always try to make sure that you say your opinion there. You know, I agree that children should not be allowed to play video games, or I totally agree that children should not be allowed to play video games. Because, for instance, in this case, you said it in the middle of your response, right? You said, so children don't have to play video games. So try to say it always in the beginning. I totally agree that children should not be allowed to play video games. Remember that it's not I am, right? But only I totally. Now you had a great reason. So video games can set a bad example for children. They can impact on their behavior. And then you had a good example as well. You talked about violent video games or video games that show violence, right? Maybe I would try to give a little bit, like some more details in your example. You could say, for instance, for example, my little niece is not allowed to play video games since they have been recently launching. And then maybe you can even mention a video game, right? You can say, like, for example, GTA, I don't know. Right? You can mention a video game that is violent, or you can make it up too.
Okay.
It was good.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's do this one here. Now the question says, explain whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. There is such a thing as love at first sight, which means that you can tell in the first 30 seconds of meeting a person whether or not you will be able to fall in love. Then give specific details in your argument. Now you guys have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Nicolas, please. You can start now.
Okay. I believe the love at first sight exists. Um, the the chemistry between the persons, and how you can um, commit connect with a person in just in a second, and yeah, that's all.
Okay, great. So you said that you believe love at first sight exists. And I think what you did is describe what it is, right? You said that you can connect with somebody in just a few seconds, that there's chemistry. So that's okay, but I think that maybe you need to give me a reason, right? Try to give a reason of why you think it exists. So maybe you can say, since, I don't know, there's such a thing as physical attraction, right? Maybe you can talk about that and then try to give an example, right? You could say, actually, or for instance, this happened to me years ago when I met this person at this place, and I thought that I really, connected with this person that day, right? Try to give specific details. Okay. Don't forget your examples. That is really important to have an example. Now, next question here says, do you prefer to study alone when you're preparing for a big examination? Or do you believe that studying in a way to prepare? Illustrate your argument with reasons and supporting details. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Betsy, please. You can start.
Okay.
now.
I prefer to study alone when I'm preparing for a big examinations because I think that another is the distractions, and I have a better preparations from my own resources, and I can find information from my own. For example, last night I was preparing for a big examination with my friends, and we prefer play video games instead study. And I think that there is so much distraction when you are with your friends or with a group. So I think it's better to study alone.
Great, perfect. I think it's better to study alone, right? Don't forget the grammar. So well done, Fancy. I don't think I have any comments. Good example. Maybe some more details, right? What was this big examination? We were preparing for a final, a final acting exam. I mean, you can have many details. That'd be the only thing. And also, I noticed that you mentioned more than one reason, right? You said, for instance, in the beginning, you said, because you don't have as many distractions, but you also said that you have more resources to study and you can look information on your own. So you actually have three reasons. I would suggest that first you focus on one, the way you did with your example, right? You said, I prefer to study alone since you have fewer distractions. You give your example and then you can add the other one, right? You can say furthermore or besides, studying alone makes you able to look for your own information and use your own resources, right? That you have at home. So that'd be the structure that I'd use. Just one reason, then your example, and then add another reason if you want, but after your example. Okay?
Okay, Andrea, thank you.
Okay, guys. Let's see. Let's do another one. All right. So our next question says, do you agree or disagree with the statement? College students should not be required to take general education courses. Make sure that you give specific reasons plus supporting details in your argument. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Alexandra, please. Let's start now.
Okay. I disagree with this statement because I think it's important that someone should have a general education course in that university. For example, I have my cousin. He's an engineer, but he works in sales. So now he has communication skills that he learned in communication class at the university. So I think I think everybody should be take general course.
Okay, perfect. Loved your response. I think I wouldn't change anything. So great example, by the way, very specific with specific details. You talked about one specific person who majored in something, was working in an area, and has one specific type of skill because of one specific general class that he took in university. So well done. I mean, great example. The only thing, don't forget, it's not I disagree, only I disagree. Right?
Okay.
Careful a tiny bit, but it was a great response.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do another one. Okay. So here we have, explain whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. Politicians should only be allowed to serve one term of 2 to 4 years. Then give specific details in your argument. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Lorena, maybe? Are you there, Lorena? Okay, then Nicolas, please. You may go ahead.
Okay. I agree with the statement because I think the politicians should should only be allowed to serve to 2 to 4 years, and then they should they should change between politicians because it makes new ways to the politics and no corruption, and that's all. Yeah. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. So what I would say is try to change the way you're approaching these questions, because if you think about it, you only gave me a reason at the end, right? When you were like 10 seconds left for the
Yeah.
response. So that's why I don't suggest that you just say, I disagree or I agree with the statement without telling me what the statement is. Because it's very common to say, I agree with the statement because I think that politicians should only be allowed to serve, but you're repeating, because when you say I agree, you're already saying that you think that politicians should only be allowed to serve one term. And then you say, I agree that politicians should only be allowed to serve one term because they should only be allowed to serve one term. So you're repeating, right? So in order to avoid that confusion, start by telling me the statement. I agree that politicians should only be allowed to serve one term, and then go directly to the reason, right? Because then you said, and then they should change to another politician, but I guess that's the same, right? So then go directly to your reason, and don't forget your example. Okay?
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna plug in my computer. Okay, guys, thanks. So let's continue. Okay. All right, so next question says, some people like to watch action movies with violence and drama. However, others prefer to watch comedies. Which type of movie do you find more entertaining? Give some specific details to support your response. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare. Okay, so Nancy, please.
Okay.
Right.
I prefer watch comedies because I think it's more funny and you have more entertaining and you have to pass a good moment with your family or your friends. For example, the last night I was sad, so I watched videos on TikTok. So there is a lot of videos that has comedies content. So I had a funny moment, so I feel better after watching that videos.
Okay, good. So nice, careful with your grammar. Some things, for instance, in the beginning. Remember, right? You're gonna use a lot prefer. So I prefer to watch instead of I prefer watch. Or you can say I prefer watch, right? But you can never say I prefer watch. So you have to either add the to or change it to a gerund, right? So only that. And you had a good example too. You talked about TikTok videos. Although I don't know if this was about videos in general, but I think it was mostly about movies. Right? So maybe you could have mentioned the name of the movie. Maybe you can still give some more details. So why were you sad? What video or what was the video about? Um, just to give more details to make it look like it's a real example. But in general, it was good. Well done. And also careful with your verbs, right? Some videos that have instead of has, for instance. Okay, guys. Any questions so far? No?
No, Andre.
Okay, great. So next one here says, some people, hang on, some people like to vacation at the beach, whereas others prefer to go to the mountains when they are on a holiday. Which do you prefer? Include some examples and details to support your answer. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare. Okay. So, Alexandra, please go ahead.
Definitely, I prefer to go to holidays at the beach because it's more relaxed for me. So it's easy to have fun there. You can meet people. For instance, last year I traveled to Costa Rica and I traveled with my family and it was a good time together. We met other people there and at the night we go out to the party together. Yeah, for me it's more exciting go to the beach and also the sunsets are beautiful.
Okay, perfect. Great. No comments really. You had good reasons, good details in your example. Careful with the tenses, that'll be the only thing. And at night we went out, right? We went out partying together. But well done. All right. Okay. So here we have some people like to buy new electronic gadgets like smartphones right when they are released from their manufacturers, while other consumers will wait a few months before making a purchase. Which do you prefer? Include some examples and details to support your answer. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So are you there, Lorena? Okay. In that case, Nicolas, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. I agree with the statement. I prefer to wait a few months for the next smartphone. For example, in the case of a new iPhone, I like to wait a few months because it's more cheaper, and yeah, it's more cheaper and more accessible for me. Also, also you can see more deals. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good thing for us. So I noticed that you didn't have too many ideas, right? You didn't know what
Yeah.
else. It's happening too much. So it's just the way that you're structuring your response, because when you structure it well, then it sometimes the ideas come more natural. So you had a great introduction this time, you didn't repeat. Try to always answer with the same, use answering the question that you have here, right? The question is, which do you prefer? So don't say I agree or disagree, just say I totally prefer to wait a few months before buying a new electronic device, right? And then your reason was great, since it's cheaper. Careful with the grammar. Remember that you can either say, like, depending on the adjective, right? If it's a short adjective, then you just say cheaper. And if it's a long one, then you say, for example, more intelligent, right? You add the word more. Now, in this case, it's cheaper. Great. They are cheaper when you wait a few months. So I wouldn't start with the example yet. The problem is that you started with your example in the beginning and then you didn't know what to say. You said, for example, with the new iPhones, I prefer to wait a few months since they are cheaper. But try to do it the other way around. Tell me, I totally prefer to wait a few months before buying a new electronic device, since they become cheaper after a few months after they have been released, right? And then give me the example about the iPhone, for example, right? You could say, for example, last year I bought the new iPhone 14 Pro Max. However, this iPhone had been launched, I don't know, 6 months after I bought it. Oh, I'm sorry, 6 months before I bought it, right? And initially, when it was first launched, it cost around, I don't know, $1,099. But after I waited for 6 months, and when I bought it, it only cost me $800, let's say, right? So you give specific details about what you're saying, and you're giving those details in the last part of your example, right? So try to structure in that way. First, you have your reason, and then you have the example. Okay, not the opposite. And when you give the example, try to give specific details, right? So when did you make this purchase? How much was it? How much did you save, right? How many months you waited? Try to give me those details. Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
guys, let's do another one. Okay, the question here says, some students are eager to talk to their professors during office hours when they have questions about course materials. However, others prefer to talk to other students during class when they have questions. Which view do you support? Give some details to support your response. So some students are eager to talk to their professors during office hours when they have questions about course materials. However, others prefer to talk to other students during class when they have questions. Which view do you support? Give some specific details to support your response. So now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Fancy, please. You may start now.
I prefer to talk when the other students, I prefer to talk during the class when I have questions because I clarify doubts of others too, and we can share doubts and the professor can give us more information. For example, yesterday my friend has a doubt and she talks with the professors and I had the same doubt, so we can clarify the same doubt at the same time. So I think that is important for it. The professor can give us more information to whole class.
I'm sorry. Okay, great. The professor is important and the professor give us information during class, right? So well done. You have a good reason. When you ask questions during class, then maybe our students have the same questions, so it's going to clarify things for everyone, right? Great reason. You had a good example as well, but I would try to give some more details. So what class was this, right? Maybe you can say yesterday in my gender studies class, I had a question about, maybe you can even give me the topic, yeah, right? I had a question about the dates in which some discoveries were made, I don't know. And I asked the professor the question, or my friend had asked the professor the question, and this happened, right? And I also happened to have the same question. So it was convenient for everyone, for all the students, that the professor answered this question. So that's the only thing I'd say. Try to give maybe some more details and careful with your tenses, right? So for instance, you said has, can, instead of had and could, right? Practice using past tenses. That'll be the only thing. So let's do another one. Okay. Now the question here says, for many, summer is the most favorite season of the year, whereas others like the winter time of the year. Which do you prefer? Include some examples and details to support your answer. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Alexandra, please, you may start speaking now.
Okay. I definitely prefer summer season since there are so many things you can do. For instance, go to the beach, maybe travel, or just walking around, running, go bicycle. And also I prefer to the summer to I love to go to the beach to see the sunsets. Every day it's different. Yeah.
Okay, good. So what do you think, Alexandra? What would you change?
The example, I think it was not clear. I forgot.
Okay. So yeah, right, the example was kind of missing there. Like you did give specific examples about what activities you can do. So those count as examples. But then you added another reason, which I think was, I don't know if it was a reason or an example, right? When you talked about the sunset.
Okay.
It was good. Some tips I can give you for grammar, careful with the gerunds, right? So there are so many things you can do in summer. For instance, going to the beach, traveling, with gerunds, right? When you talk about activities. And maybe instead of saying there are so many things, you can say there are more things that you can do in summer than in winter, right? And that way you make the comparison stronger. And yeah, I mean, aside from that, it was good.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. Now, the question here says, do you prefer to have an early dinner around 4 or 5 p.m. or to have a late dinner around 8 or 9 p.m.? Provide specific details to support your explanation. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So, Nicolas, please. You can go ahead.
Okay. I believe early dinner is better because, for example, in US they prefer to dinner at early hours, and in Bolivia we usually eat late for at 8 or 9 o'clock. Um, Personally, I think early dinner is better because your stomach uh, can process the food better.
Okay, good. But kind of the same thing here, right? You only talked about what was important about the reason at the end. In the beginning, you just made that comparison about how like different cultures have different, times when they have dinner, but that's not relevant to what you're saying, right? You could maybe use that for your example later. The problem is that you give your introduction and then you right off go to for example, right? You said, I prefer to have an early dinner because I think it's better, right? You said, I think it's better to have an early dinner. And then you went directly to for example, but you needed your reason first, right? You have to kind of force yourself to say the word because or since so that you start with your reason already. So I think that having an early dinner is better since you can digest the food better, right? Early than late at night. And then you can give the example, and then you can use what you were saying about the US and Bolivia, right? You could say, for instance, I remember that I was living in the US for 2 years, a couple of years back. And so I was very used to having late dinner. And I usually had maybe stomach aches, or maybe I had some digestion problems. And it wasn't until I came back to Bolivia and I started having, it's the other way around, right? It wasn't until maybe I went to the States and I started having late dinners that I don't know, I got healthier or I started to feel better. So you can use that for your example, okay? But we need your reason first. So introduction, then your reason, and then you can give examples, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So a question here says, do you prefer to read printed books or do you believe that audiobooks are a better choice? Illustrate your argument with reasons and supporting details. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Pansy, please, you can start now.
Okay, I prefer to read printed books because I think you can increase your creativity and you can understand better. For example, the last year I listened an audiobook, I'm sorry. So I didn't understand at all because the voice I didn't like it because it could be more different than different that I can imagine. So I think there is important and as better way printed books.
Printed books are very good. So no comments. The only thing, I mean, you talked about creativity in your reason, and then you also talked about understanding, right? Comprehension. And then your example was only about understanding. So I guess it's the same tip as I gave you before. Have one reason first, either creativity or understanding. And that's why you have to prepare, right? During your 15 seconds, your main reason. So go only with one reason in the beginning. Tell me, I totally prefer to read printed books since the comprehension is better, right? And then you give your example. You said, last year I read, try to give more details. I read this book. So make up a name or talk about one book that you may have read. And then say everything that you didn't understand the content, that you didn't like the voice of the narrators, it was distracting, whatever, right? And then you can add another reason. You can say, plus, I feel that by reading printed books, you stimulate your creativity way more, right? So organize it like that so that it's not too, because it may be a little bit not so easy to follow. You know, it's a little bit shocking when you go with two reasons and we don't know which one you're gonna illustrate on how, because if you give two reasons in the beginning, then your example should illustrate the two reasons that you gave. Otherwise, it may be a little bit confusing. Okay?
Okay, Andrea.
Okay. So some people choose to exercise right after they wake up before going to work, whereas others exercise after work in the evening. Which do you prefer? Put some examples and details to support your answer. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Alexandra, please, you may start.
Okay. Definitely, I prefer to go do exercise before going to work. Because when I stress if I stress my body in the morning, I have more energy during the day. Yeah. For example, I always go to running in the mornings before my job, and I feel more focused in my work. So
Okay, good. Well done. Good reason. So when you exercise before work in the mornings, you have more energy throughout the day. And good example as well, right? You talked about one type of exercise. Maybe some more details. For instance, I start work at 8 a.m. So every day I make sure that I wake up at 6 a.m. and I go running for 30 minutes, right? And I feel that that gives me all the boost of energy that I need for the day. Some more details maybe, but overall it was a great response. Well done, Alexa. Okay, guys. So what do you think? Do you have any questions now? This is the last class we have for task number 1. We've had a lot of practice. So I don't know what you guys think, how you guys feel. Do you have any questions about it before we go? Is everything clear? Guys, awesome. So please don't forget today's survey. Remember, tomorrow we'll move on to the next questions of the speaking section. We'll start something new. So make sure you're in class. And I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow.
Bye, Andrea. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.